I arrived at the difficulty level, the teleportation port for the beast hunter. But Yuran had just entered for 2.5 seconds. A beastman appeared behind him. Fortunately, he reacted in time. He used the sliding shovel to avoid the orc's powerful hammer. Then Yuran took advantage of the gap after the orc's attack. He directly slashed at the werewolf's calf with a spin. But what surprised Yuran was that the defense of this level of orc was so terrifying. With his full strength, only scratched a little skin. It seems that he has the magic blood to survive. Soon, the orc raised the giant hammer again and attacked down. Yuran continued to use the previous move. After 13 rounds, the tendons of the orc's legs were finally cut off. He collapsed to the ground. Since he had lost the ability to move, the next step is to accept the judgment of death. What Yuran didn't know was that the action of him breaking into the dungeon alone last time had been investigated by an organization. After summoning the skeletons, Yuran just needs to watch quietly. Although the skill level is too low, the skeleton's resistance is too poor. But it doesn't matter. The king of Deadpool made him understand a truth. As long as his spiritual power allows, the number of skeletons he can summon will be infinite, equal to the number of dead monsters. As Yuran broke through the level again, his blood poison technique also successfully reached level 2, but due to the limitations of the dungeon, Yuran can no longer gain experience from ordinary orcs. So next, it's time for him to find the outlier hunter orc. The screen changes. What appeared in front of him at this moment is the hunter beastman Yuan is looking for. Seeing that the other party was so reckless, eating the corpses of his kind, Yuan also remembered the trick he was given. This immediately, which aroused his anger. However, Yuran knew that the strength of the other party is definitely several levels higher than ordinary orcs. He couldn't directly confront the opponent at once, so he had to send skeletons to test the enemy first. When the hunter smelled the enemy, immediately picked up weapons and charged forward. After a head-on confrontation with the skeletons, the hunter suddenly became a rogue. He bit the skeleton soldier's bone directly. Unknowingly, his move actually exposed a huge flaw. Yuan pulled the bowstring. A sword with blood poison technique shot out directly and hit the hunter's weakest eye. As the toxicity spread to the nerve center, the hunter instantly knelt down uncontrollably. Finally, the skeleton soldier gave him a final blow. The mission of this dungeon was completed. But just as Yuan was about to leave, he saw a human skeleton in the bones beside him. The neat crack that appeared on it. He was sure that this person must have been attacked by the orcs, although it is not certain whether it was murder. But if it was Long Wan Pai from the Firebird Guild, it was probably for money and equipment. There was a similar case. Suddenly, in the cave in front of Yuan, a dazzling light flashed. So he decided to find out. When he looked through the cave, he found there was a body inside that hadn't been attacked. Without any damage, Yuan guessed that this person was probably a deserter and starved to death here. However, when he saw the metal on the skeleton, Yuan knew that this person was from the Firebird Guild. While he was thinking about the next plan, a diary suddenly fell from the skeleton. After seeing the contents inside, Yuan was grateful for the evil he had done in his past life. This diary actually recorded the murder of Li Rongwan. However, to inquire whether the situation was true, Yuan used the legendary skill he had obtained earlier, Anubis' Eye. which can peek into all the memories of the deceased. In his opinion, the dead would never tell a lie. Yuran's pupils suddenly emitted a great light, which then transformed into a shock wave and shot towards the sea. In the deceased's memory, Yuan saw the scene of Li Rongwan killing people and said that he would one day become the leader of the Firebird Guild. It seems that in Li Rongwan's blacklist, they are all obstacles to his climbing plan. After confirming, Yuran immediately disconnected from the spirit link. Although it consumed a lot of his spiritual power, but how to get close to Li Rongwan later? To get the last spot. Yuran has come up with a brilliant plan. It is said that the dead will never tell secrets. But as long as under this man's gaze, even the remains of a skeleton will lie. Because he has the eyes of Anubis, which can peek into the memories of the deceased. So Yuran relied on him, successfully obtained the solid evidence of Li Rongwan's murder. So the next day, he immediately found Li Rongwan and took out the badge and the diary. Seeing this, Li Rongwan, he thought the other party was trying to trick him. But if he dared to do these things, he would not be afraid of others revealing the truth. Unexpectedly, Yuan's response surprised him greatly. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to get a spot in the recent hot topic. Hearing this, Li Rongwan couldn't help laughing. Don't you know that? He is a level 1 underground layer? Yu Yuan naturally knew it very well, but other guilds were already full. He also, that he found out through investigation, the Firebird Guild still had one last substitute spot. Yuran's careful calculation quickly received Li Rongwan's affirmation. Okay, I'll give you the last spot. But you must help me investigate one thing. After that, Yuran went to participate in a dungeon mission. Although the level cleared was only 1, but he had to kill 1,000 orcs and the boss. The orc chief, Yuan in his previous life had never entered this dungeon. The equipment dropped by killing the boss will be coveted by all major guilds. And there is an extremely strange phenomenon. Nearly 50% of them died on the battlefield. You know, the 149 people here are all elites selected by the guild. Fighting against the orcs alone, it is impossible to have so many casualties. So the reason why Yuan participated this time, not only to get the equipment chief's tooth, but also to investigate who is the mastermind behind this incident. If it was really Zhang Qian who was behind the scenes, Yuran can conclude that he had already undergone a dark transformation. Soon, it was time to enter the Vega dungeon. Those participating in the crusade, not only Zhang Qian's Miser Guild, but also the Firebird Guild, Lion King Guild, and the Skull Guild represented by the Sakura country. Just as everyone entered the dungeon, the orcs saw invaders coming. They immediately launched an attack in groups. Various guilds also showed their unique skills, which caught the orcs off guard. But due to the large number of participants, those who had already started the battle didn't notice Yuran's joining. As for him, he started his own secret operation. He went alone to hunt down the final boss. Soon, Yuan quickly found the coordinates of the orc chief. Now the other side is planning to send all to drive away the invaders. This was undoubtedly great news for Yu Yuan. So next, the best time for him to take the chieftain's head. However, just as Yu Yuan summoned 2 skeletons to attack, he completely underestimated the strength of the orc chief. Just the most ordinary civilian attack. It instantly killed a skeleton soldier. It seems that the attribute blessing of the chief's tooth several times more terrifying than the prophecy. Seeing that another skeleton was attracting hatred, Yuran decided to take a gamble. So when the chieftain swung his axe, attacking his own skeleton soldier, he immediately shot the arrow with blood poison technique. He shot at the weakest part of the chieftain's defense. But in the moment when the arrow was about to hit, the chief showed extremely sensitive reflexes. Meanwhile, another misfortune came again. When the skeleton soldier attacked the chief's calf, the knife in his hand was directly shaken into two pieces by the defense. Yuran knew that he had no chance. He had no chance of winning, and his spiritual power was almost exhausted. So today's crusade, even if he knew the chief's strength was not false. So next, he had to replan his strategy. But on the way back to the camp, his whereabouts were discovered. He is the fighter of the 6th senior. While others were struggling to fight monsters and level up, he wanted to steal the final reward of the level. But because the orc chief had legendary equipment, Yuan's first battle ended in failure quickly. And just as he was about to go back and make a new plan, he didn't realize that his whereabouts had been exposed. These people were the Lion King Guild's reconnaissance team. Their idea is the same as Yu Angsao's, but for safety's sake, the leader decided to go back and report the information. The words were just said, and the people had just left. Someone suddenly attacked this Lion King Guild's deer. Meanwhile, Yuran also returned to the Firebird Guild station, seeing his teammates looking depressed, and the tombstones erected around. Yuran guessed. He guessed that the guild had already started a secret war. And he also heard that the Corpse King Guild has suffered the most losses. Although Yuan would not sympathize with their deaths. But if the casualties tomorrow are the same as today, the overall decline in combat effectiveness will greatly affect his next actions. Time quickly came to the early morning. Various guilds rushed to the front line to kill the orcs early. As for Yuran, he started his second round of battle plan. His equipment. There is no weapon that can kill the chieftain in one hit. Besides, using skeletons as bait could only last for 2.5 minutes. At this moment, Yuan suddenly thought of the skeletons would imitate his combat skills. So this time he decided to go into battle himself. As for the summoned skeletons, would shoot arrows from behind. And when the chief saw enemies invading, he took a step and swung his giant axe towards Yuan. But soon the skeletons worked. In order to avoid the arrows shot at him, he had to change his attack to defense. This is exactly what Yuan wanted. Then he flew into the sky and intended to execute the next step from the chieftain's blind spot. Yuan suddenly used a downward attack. Although he still missed the target this time. But his target was the equipment worn by the chieftain on his neck. With the fisherman successfully seizing the chieftain's cliff, the orc chief's stats instantly decreased. The skeletons behind him immediately shot 2 arrows, and the arrows hit the chief's calf directly, which successfully gave him the poison effect. Then it was Yuran's turn. He smeared his blood on the sword, and the attribute bonus of the chief's tooth. The boss is no match for him now. However, Yuran knew that. To behead the chieftain, he must take the weapon in the chief's hand. As Yuran dodged the incoming attack, he flipped over and jumped onto the chieftain's arm. Then he stabbed the tendons of the hand with a sword. he successfully separated the giant axe from the hand. The remaining task was left to the skeleton soldiers. Meanwhile, a scout suddenly found the coordinates of the orc chief and happened to see Yuran summoning the scene of skeletons fighting and was ready to report it to the guild. However, the scout's retreat was too noisy and was soon noticed by Yuan. The moment he jumped onto the tree, the shoulder was hit by a skeleton soldier, sending a sword with blood poison technique. And in the next second, a person suddenly appeared behind him. But it wasn't Yuran, but a member of the skeleton guild. The other party was not hesitant